नमस्कार मित्र हो, माझ्या बायोबूस्टर चॅनलमध्ये आपणा सर्वांचं स्वागत आहे. मी डॉक्टर अबासाहेब नलवडे, रिटायर्ड प्रोफेसर ऑफ बॉटनी. मागच्या व्हिडिओजमध्ये आपण बायोमॉलिक्युल्स हा चॅप्टर डिस्कस केलेला आहे आणि या व्हिडिओमध्ये आपण फोटोसिंथेसिसला सुरुवात करत आहोत. फोटोसिंथेसिसमध्ये पहिला जो पॉईंट आहे दॅट इज क्लोरोप्लास्ट. Then we shall proceed towards the introduction of photosynthesis. First point is energy. Then what is energy? Energy is the capacity to work. Energy is the capacity to work we have studied in physics. The cell needs energy for various metabolic activities. There are various types of cells inside the animal or the plant body. All these cells require energy for various activities. Energy is required for growth, movement, reproduction, repair and maintenance. Thus, energy is the capacity to work. Energy is required or cell needs the energy for various metabolic activities. Cell needs the energy for growth, movement, reproduction, repair and maintenance. For all these metabolic activities, energy is required. From where this energy is obtained? The sources of energy. Sun is the ultimate source of energy. Ultimate source of energy is the sun. From this sun, energy is captured and this is used for various activities. Plants carry out photosynthesis and convert this light energy into the chemical energy in the form of carbohydrates. In the process of photosynthesis, what happens? Green plants, they absorb light energy and they convert this light energy into the chemical energy and produce the carbohydrates. These carbohydrates are used as a source of energy. Carbohydrates which are synthesized in the plants, these are used for various activities by animals and human beings. In a respiration, these carbohydrates which are synthesized in the process of photosynthesis, these are broken down. For example, glucose is broken down to release the energy by animals and human beings. This energy is used for various metabolic activities. Sun is the ultimate source of energy. Plants carry out photosynthesis and convert this light energy into the chemical energy and they synthesize carbohydrates. These carbohydrates are utilized by animals and human beings as a source of energy. Glucose in a respiration, in the process of respiration, this glucose is broken down and this energy is released. This released energy is used for various metabolic activities by animals and human beings. Then we shall see the definition of photosynthesis or what photosynthesis is actually. Photosynthesis is the only process on the earth by which solar energy is trapped by green plants and it converted into the photon. Photosynthesis, it is the only process on this earth where this light energy or solar energy, this is absorbed by the green plants and this is converted into the food. Photosynthesis is defined as synthesis of carbohydrates. In this process, in the process of photosynthesis, carbohydrates are synthesized, for example glucose, from inorganic materials. That is not which inorganic materials are used? That is CO2 and H2. With the help of solar energy, light energy, trapped by pigments like chlorophyll. Photosynthesis is defined as synthesis of carbohydrates. If you divide the definition, you can see that what is synthesized? Carbohydrates are synthesized. From what these are synthesized? These are synthesized from inorganic materials like CO2 and H2. How these are synthesized? With the help of solar energy trapped by chlorophyll pigments which are present in the plants. You can see here 6 CO2 for 12H, 6 CO2 plus 12H2. These are the inorganic materials. These inorganic materials are converted into the carbohydrates. For example, this is the glucose, C6H12O6. Here, for this synthesis, chlorophyll molecules absorb this light energy. Chlorophyll molecules which are present in the plants, they absorb this light energy. With the help of this light energy, plants convert these inorganic materials CO2 and H2 into the carbohydrates or organic substances. Photosynthesis is unique to plants. Only plants can perform the function of photosynthesis. And on this photosynthesis, the life ultimately depends. The life depends upon the photosynthesis because photosynthesis is the only process where the food material is synthesized. And all the life, all the organisms, these are depending upon the food synthesized by the process of photosynthesis. It is one of the most massive chemical process going on the earth. This photosynthesis is the only process on the earth where solar energy is converted into the chemical energy, or solar energy is trapped by the green plants and converted into the food. Photosynthesis is defined as synthesis of carbohydrates from inorganic materials like CO2 and H2O with the help of light energy trapped by chlorophyll pigments. Photosynthesis is the unique to plants. Only plants can perform this photosynthesis. It is the most massive process, massive chemical process going on the earth. Atmosphere contains only 0.03% of CO2 by volume. On this atmosphere, on the earth, there is only 0.03% of CO2 by volume, and this percentage represents 2,200 billion tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. In the atmosphere, there is 2,200 billion tons of CO2. Oceans contain 50 times of atmospheric nitrogen. This is the atmospheric nitrogen. In the oceans, there is 50 times more of this, 50 times more of the atmospheric CO2 in the form of, in the oceans it is present in the form of gas and the carbonates. In the oceans, or the oceans contain over 50 times of atmospheric CO2 in the form of dissolved gas and carbonates. From these two sources, every year, from the atmosphere, from the oceans, etc., 70 billion tons of CO2 is fixed by the plants per year. From the atmosphere, from the ocean, 70 billion tons of CO2 is fixed in the process of photosynthesis by the plants per year. In the atmosphere, there is 0.03% of the CO2. This question can be asked in the examination. This small percent represents 2,200 billion tons of CO2 in the atmosphere. Oceans contain 50 times more of atmospheric CO2 in the form of gases and carbonates. From these two sources, oceans and the atmosphere, 70 billion tons of CO2 is fixed by the plants per year or annually. Then we shall see the site of photosynthesis, place of photosynthesis. Where does this photosynthesis occur? These are the chloroplasts. Chloroplast, it is the site of photosynthesis. In the chloroplast, photosynthesis occurs. This is the structure of a chloroplast. These chloroplasts are mainly present in the mesophyll cells. While dealing with the anatomy of leaf, we have seen that mesophyll cells are the green cells which are containing large number of chloroplasts. CO2 reaches the chloroplast through the stomata. Stomata are the small openings we have seen. Suppose this is the epidermis and here this is the stoma. Through this stomata, CO2 reaches the chloroplast and water reaches through the veins. Veins which are present in the leaves, through these veins water is transported. Chloroplast, it is the site of photosynthesis. It is the center of photosynthesis. These mainly, chloroplasts are mainly located in the mesophyll cells. Mesophyll cells are the green cells which are present mainly in the leaves. Stomata reaches the mesophyll cells through the stomata. CO2 reaches through the stomata and water reaches through the veins. Then we shall see the ultrastructure of a chloroplast. First point is the shape. In higher plants, chloroplasts are disc-like or these are lens-shaped. In higher plants, these chloroplasts are disc-like, discoid or lens-shaped. Each chloroplast is covered by means of two membranes. Each chloroplast is covered by double membrane. This is the outer membrane and this is the inner membrane. Thus, these two membranes are present around the chloroplast. The space between these two membranes, this space, this is called as periplastidial space. Each chloroplast is covered by means of two membranes, outer membrane and inner membrane. The space between these two membranes, this is called as a periplastidial space. Then stroma, inner membrane, this is the inner membrane. This inner membrane encloses a space inside. This space is filled by means of a ground substance. This is called as stroma. This is the stroma. Here there are two membranes, outer and inner. Inner membrane encloses a space inside the chloroplast. This space, it is filled by matrix or the stroma or the ground substance, or we commonly called as stroma. Shape, in higher plants chloroplasts are disc-like or the lens shape. Each chloroplast is covered by means of double membrane, outer and inner. The space between the two membranes is called as a periplastidial space. Inner membrane encloses a space inside. This is filled by a ground substance called as a stroma. Then next point is the lamin. Stroma contains, this is the stroma. This stroma contains grana and stroma lamin. This is a grana lamin. This is a stroma lamin. These are connecting to each other. These grana are connected by means of stroma lamin. Each granum, this is made up of double membrane sacs. Sacs means bags. These are called thylakoids. You can see here. This is one thylakoid, another thylakoid. These thylakoids, these are placed one above the other like a pile of coins. These are thylakoids. These are double membrane sacs. These are placed one above the other like a pile of coins, and the structure which formed is, this is called as a granum. The structure, this is called as a granum. This is a granum. This granum contains double membrane sacs placed one above the other like a pile of coins. The space inside the thylakoid, suppose this is a thylakoid. This space, this is called as lumen. This space is called as a lumen. All the pigments, chlorophylls, carotenoids, xanthophyls, these are located in the thylakoid membranes. These pigments are present in these thylakoid membranes. These pigments absorb light of a specific spectrum. Every pigment absorbs light of a specific spectrum. The pigments are fat soluble and located in the lipid part of the membrane. The pigments, these are fat soluble and these are located in the lipid part of the membrane. You can see once again, stroma contains, this is the stroma. This stroma contains granum, that is grana lamina. This is a stroma connecting between these grana. These are the stroma lamina. Granum is made up of double membrane discs which are placed one above the other like a pile of coins. These are called thylakoids. The space inside the thylakoid is called as a lumen. All the pigments, chlorophylls, carotenoids and xanthophyls, these are present in the membranes of thylakoids. In the membranes of thylakoids. These pigments absorb light of a specific spectrum in the visible region. The pigments are fat soluble and these are located in the lipid part of the membrane. You see the structure of a chloroplast. Here you can see that inside the stroma there are starch grains. This is starch grain. There are ribosomes. Inside the stroma you can see there are lamellae. Just now we have seen grana lamellae and stroma lamellae. In addition to this, there are starch grains. Here there are ribosomes. There is a chloroplast DNA. You can see this is a chloroplast DNA. Stroma, this is the inner is the stroma. You can see the structure of a chloroplast. Here these are the grana. Grana structures are present. This is the chloroplast DNA. And these are the starch grains. These are the ribosomes. In this way, the chloroplast structure is divided into various points. the point that is lamellae, just now we have seen. Then functions of chloroplast. Just now we have seen that chloroplast performs the function of photosynthesis. This function operates in two parts. In the first part, with the help of certain enzymes, they participate in the conversion of solar energy into ATP and NADPH. This is called as a reducing power. In the first part of the photosynthesis, these chloroplasts, they participate in the conversion of light energy. Light energy is converted into the adenosine triphosphate and NADPH. This is called as a reducing power. This occurs in the first part of the photosynthesis. In the second part, enzymes of stroma, just now we have seen the stroma. In this stroma, various enzymes are present. They utilize ATP and NADPH to produce the carbohydrates. Actually, CO2, or there is a reduction of carbon. This CO2 is reduced into the carbohydrates in the second part. This is called as a dark reaction that we are going to see in the detail afterwards. Enzymes of stroma utilize this ATP and NADPH to convert this CO2 into the carbohydrates. These are the functions of chloroplast. Then we shall turn towards the photosynthetic pigments. There are two main types of photosynthetic pigments in the plants, in the leaves, and these are chlorophylls and carotenoids. These photosynthetic pigments. These are divided into two categories, chlorophylls and carotenoids. Then we shall see the chlorophylls. Chlorophylls are green pigments, we know. Chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, these are found in the higher plants. Chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, these are present in the higher plants. Chlorophyll molecule consists of two parts, head part and tail part. This head part is called as tetrapyral head. This is a tetrapyral head, or this is called as a porphyrin ring. This consists of magnesium atom at the center, and there is a phytol tail. This is a head part and this is a tail part. Chlorophyll molecule consists of two parts, tetrapyral head and phytol tail. Tetrapyral head has magnesium atom at the center, and phytol tail, this is attached to the porphyrin group. Chlorophyll A molecule, this has methyl group, while chlorophyll B molecule has aldehyde group. Chlorophylls are green pigments. Chlorophyll A and B, these are present in the higher plants. Chlorophyll molecule consists of two parts, head part and tail part. Head part consists of magnesium atom at the center. This head part is called as tetrapyral head, and tail part, this is called as a phytol tail attached to the porphyrin group. Chlorophyll A molecule has methyl group, while chlorophyll B molecule has aldehyde group. Then carotenoids. Next group of photosynthetic pigments, these are the carotenoids. Carotenoids are the lipid compounds present universally in all the higher plants and several microorganisms. These are present in microorganisms as well as in case of higher plants. And these are the lipid compounds. Carotenoids are the lipid compounds. They are usually red, orange, yellow, and brown. These are associated with the chlorophylls. Carotenoids, these are having different colors. Red color, orange, yellow, and brown, and these are associated with the chlorophylls. Carotenoids are of two types, carotenes and xanthophylls. Carotenoids, these are of two types, carotenes and xanthophylls. Carotenes, if you see, carotenes have C40H52. These are orange red. Carotenes, these are orange red. While xanthophylls are having additional oxygen, that is C40, H56 and O2. And these are yellow in color. You can see carotenes are orange red, xanthophylls are yellow. Carotenes are not having oxygen, xanthophylls are having oxygen. Light energy absorbed by carotenoids this is transferred to the chlorophyll A molecule, which is utilized in the process of photosynthesis. Here, carotenoids are the xanthophyls. Although they absorb the light energy, this light energy is not directly used in the process of photosynthesis, but this is transferred to the chlorophyll A molecule, and then afterwards this energy is used in the process of photosynthesis. That's why pigments other than chlorophyll A, all these are called accessory pigments. Chlorophyll A is the principal pigment which is used in the process of photosynthesis, which directly participates in the process of photosynthesis, while remaining pigments, for example carotenoids, xanthophyls, etc., all these pigments are called as accessory pigments. Light energy absorbed by carotenoids, this is transferred to the chlorophyll A to be utilized in the process of photosynthesis. Carotenoids mainly absorb wavelength in the violet to blue region. There is a light spectrum of different colors. In this light spectrum, the carotenoids absorb the light energy in a violet and blue region of the spectrum. Carotenoids protect chlorophylls from photooxidation. Sometimes oxidation of chlorophylls occurs. This oxidation is reduced, is stopped by these carotenoids. That is, carotenoids protect chlorophylls from photooxidation. Photooxidation means oxidation in presence of light. Carotenoids are the lipid compounds present universally in higher plants and microorganisms. They are usually red, orange, yellow and brown. There are two types, carotins and xanthophylls. Carotins are having formula C40H56. These are orange red. While xanthophylls are having additional oxygen, that is C40H56 and O2. These are yellow in color. Light energy absorbed by these carotenoids, this is transferred to the chlorophyll A molecule, which is utilized in the process of photosynthesis. Carotenoids mainly absorb the wavelength of light in the violet and blue region of the spectrum. Carotenoids protect the chlorophylls from photooxidation. The nature of light. Light is a form of energy. We know that light is a form of energy. Light travels as a spectrum, light travels as a stream of tiny particles. This is a stream of tiny particles. This stream of tiny particles, these are called as photons. Here, these are the photons. These photons are the amount of energy present in the photons. This is called as quantum. Light is in the form of energy. Light travels as a stream of tiny particles. These are called photons. Photons contain the energy or the amount of energy present in the photon. This is called as quantum. Light has different wavelengths having different colors. If you see the light spectrum, you will see that these are having different wavelengths and different colors. One can see the electromagnetic radiations with the wavelength ranging from 390 to 730 nm. Means visible spectrum ranges from 390 to 730 nanometers. This part of the spectrum is called as a visible spectrum. This visible spectrum, this is useful in the process of photosynthesis. Here, this spectrum, the wavelength of light between 390 and 730 nm, this part of the light, this spectrum of the light, this is used in the process of photosynthesis. It lies between the wavelengths of ultraviolet and infrared. अल्ट्राव्हायोलेट आणि इन्फ्रारेडच्या मधला स्पेक्ट्रमचा जो मधला पार्ट आहे तर तो व्हिजिबल स्पेक्ट्रम आहे आणि तो फोटोसिंथेसिससाठी उपयोगी असतो. लाईट इज ए फॉर्म ऑफ एनर्जी. Light travels as a stream of tiny particles called photons. Amount of energy present in the photons is called as quantum. Light has a different wavelengths with different colors. We can see the electromagnetic radiations with the wavelength ranging from 390 to 730 nm. This is a visible spectrum. This lies between the wavelength of light, ultraviolet and infrared. Ultraviolet and infrared च्या मधला जो visible spectrum आहे, this is used in the process of photosynthesis. photosynthesis. Then we shall say absorption spectrum. All the pigments of chloroplast absorb light quanta or photons and transfer the light energy to chlorophyll A molecules. You can see that absorption spectrum shows the amount of light energy absorbed by particular pigment at each wavelength. You can see this is the light spectrum and this is the absorption of light. You can see chlorophyll A molecule. Chlorophyll A molecule absorbs the maximum light at this wavelength. This is the absorption spectrum. Chlorophyll A molecule absorbs the maximum light at this wavelength. Chlorophyll B absorbs the maximum light at this NM or at this wavelength. Carotenoids, they absorb the maximum light at this wavelength of the visible spectrum. In this way, you can see that our absorption spectrum shows that each molecule, each photosynthetic pigment absorbs the maximum light in which region of the spectrum. Absorption spectrum shows the amount of light energy absorbed by particular pigment at each wavelength. Amount of light absorbed at wavelength can be shown in the form of a graph. This is called as absorption spectrum. This shows the different curves at different wavelengths. You can see these curves. Highest amount of light energy is absorbed by chlorophyll A molecule at this wavelength. Chlorophyll B absorbs maximum light energy at this wavelength. Carotenoids absorb maximum light energy at this wavelength. This is shown in the form of a graph. This is called as absorption spectrum. Absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A and B clearly shows more absorption at blue, red and violet region of the spectrum. Blue, red and violet region of the spectrum. Relative rate of photosynthesis at different wavelengths indicates close relationship with absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A and B. In this case, absorption spectrum shows the different pigments at which wavelength they are absorbing maximum wavelength of maximum absorption of light energy. This is the absorption spectrum. Then we can see the action spectrum. You can see a rate of photosynthesis. This is the rate of photosynthesis. This is the absorption. Just now we have seen absorption of light energy. Action spectrum shows the rate of photosynthesis as different wavelengths. You can see this is the rate of photosynthesis at different wavelengths. Wavelength ranging from 400 to 700, which has been shown in this graph. Blue and red region shows higher rate of photosynthesis. You can see higher rate of photosynthesis in the red region and in the blue region. Photosynthesis also occurs even in those parts of the visible spectrum where chlorophyll A absorbs the little light. At this place, chlorophyll A, it absorbs the little light. Still photosynthesis occurs. Still there is a synthesis of carbohydrates. It means that other pigments can also absorb the light energy. ज्या भागामध्ये क्लोरोफिल मॉलिक्युल्स अतिशय कमी प्रमाणामध्ये लाईट एनर्जी ॲब्सॉर्ब करतात त्या भागामध्ये सुद्धा फोटोसिंथेसिस होतं. याचा अर्थ क्लोरोफिल सोडून इतर जे पिगमेंट्स आहेत ते पिगमेंट सुद्धा लाईट एनर्जी ॲब्सॉर्ब करतात आणि फोटोसिंथेसिस सुरू राहते. हियर फोटोसिंथेसिस also occurs even in those part of the spectrum where chlorophyll A absorbs the light, little light. ज्या भागामध्ये क्लोरोफिल ए अतिशय कमी प्रमाणामध्ये लाईट एनर्जी ॲब्सॉर्ब केली जाते त्या भागामध्ये सुद्धा फोटोसिंथेसिस होत असतं. दिस कन्क्लूड्स दॅट लाईट एनर्जी ॲब्सॉर्ब बाय अदर पिगमेंट्स. इट मीन्स दॅट other pigments also absorb the light energy. Carotenoids and other forms of chlorophyll A. And this light energy is transferred to chlorophyll A molecule, which is directly used in the process of photosynthesis. This is the action spectrum. Action spectrum shows rate of photosynthesis at different wavelengths. Blue and red region shows highest rate of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis also occurs even in those part of the spectrum where chlorophyll A molecule absorbs the little light. It means that other pigments also absorb the light energy and transfer this light energy to chlorophyll A molecule. This is about the absorption spectrum. In the next part, we are going to proceed towards the mechanism of photosynthesis. आपणास जर हा व्हिडिओ आवडला असेल तर कृपया लाईक करा, शेअर करा आणि सबस्क्राईब करा.